What's up, guys? This is Juan with another episode of Full Send. And today's episode, I have Frank with me, and me and Frank go way back. He was my boss, 12 years ago?
It's been, I was going to say 10 or 11 years, but maybe it's been 12 now.
I think it was 2012 when I started with him and his landscaping journey, and so stay tuned.
Let's get straight to the point. This what you do and what you don't do. No bullshit, sugarcoat when it comes to repairs and maintenance. Advice you can go to. Full Send, no edits, cause just go to Full Send, and we'll get you done right. Full Send, and we'll get you going right. Full Send, keep it going day and night. And this ain't just a podcast, we get it right and keep it tight.
But now, Frank, tell everybody listening a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. Well, first, I appreciate you having me. This is a great opportunity to come out here and talk to you. Like you said, it's been, I thought it was 10 years, been 12 years.
Yeah.
So, been a while. But I guess, let me give a quick background of myself, and then I know you got a couple topics you want to cover.
Yeah.
And we can kind of get into that. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. So for myself, I graduated from A&M. With an MIS degree, Management Information Systems, and that's basically an IT degree in the business school. And so after graduating, got a job at a software development company, did that for about a year, and then transitioned into a bigger chemical company doing ERP software, in fact, SAP. And so doing integrations, master data, things like that. Did that as a consultant for 3 or 4 years. And then transitioned to another chemical company doing pretty much the same thing in SAP. From there, got promoted up to e-business manager. Did that for a few years. E-business at the time, and again, this was probably early 2000s. E-business wasn't as prevalent as it is today. We did have some electronic commerce, B2B, but the commonplace today with portals, customers going out and placing orders, tracking orders, things. It wasn't as common back then as it is today. So we were kind of on the forefront at that point. Did that for 3 or 4 years, and around 2004, decided I wanted to go back to school. And so A&M had an executive MBA program that they were holding out there in the Woodlands, and I was working at the Woodlands at the time. So I went back to school, started that program in 2005, and that was a 2-year program, graduated in 2007. And upon finishing my MBA, I'd been working for about 10 years, and in IT, wanted to start branching out, get on the business side. And so I started looking at jobs on the business, and an opportunity came out, a customer service manager role in one of our product lines. Applied, got that position, and so managed 14 customer service reps, which was was a fun job, placing orders and all the drama in that, but. Was able to bring a lot of my IT skills to that job, the efficiencies, the automation, the electronic commerce. And so, I think it was a win-win for both sides. We were very efficient in what we were doing, placing orders, tracking orders, things like that. And then I got that business experience there. From there, I went into a procurement role and then another product line, and that was obviously interfacing with vendors and doing negotiation for, one of our big raw materials. And so again, great exposure. And then, came around 2011, and, I always had this in the back of my mind. I wanted to own my own company. And so, in fact, when I went back to my MBA program, there were quite a few entrepreneurs, business owners in that program. And that just kind of triggered that, more and more. And so I always had the desire, I wanted to run my own company. So around 2011, much to the surprise of my colleagues, my coworkers, and certainly my family, I basically quit my job, steady paycheck, 401k, insurance, bonus, everything that comes with a corporate job. Boom. I quit that to start this company, and it happened to be a landscape company. Prior to that, had no landscape experience unless you want to consider, cutting my yard when I was a teenager, or yards around the neighborhood trying to make a couple extra bucks, but didn't have any prior landscape experience, didn't know one plant from another, trees, irrigation, drainage, all the things you need to know to run a successful company. I didn't have that prior experience. what drove me to landscape was I did have a buddy I grew up with. In fact, we lived together in College Station for about a year, and he owned a landscape company. He was out west of Houston, out in Katy, and he was, blowing it up. He was very successful, and we kept in touch, over the years. And at the time, I still live in Montgomery County over there in north of the Woodlands. And around 2011, I think Montgomery County was probably one of the fastest growing counties in the country.
Yeah, that
if you
place
remember
boomed.
that. And so, he said, Frank, I think you should start a landscape company over on your part of the, your part of the world. And so, that's what we did. And he helped me, get started. And so, that kind of fast forward, that takes us to where you and I met. And real quick story, after about 3 weeks, of quitting my job, establishing the LLC, all the things you have to do to start a company, I distinctly remember waking up one morning and I was in a state of panic, really. And, all of us, I was literally sweating, wondering, what did I just do? I quit all this, my paycheck, my steady income. And I gave myself, probably a couple of hours to process that and get through that. And, at that time, I figured I had two choices. I could, go back, say this is not going to work, try to get my old job back, go to
Hey,
corporate.
man, come on. I'm just playing. It was a joke.
Go back to my network. Or, I could kind of get up and put my boots on and get to work and make it successful. So, fortunately, it was the latter. That's exactly what I did. Went to door to door, started selling maintenance jobs in my subdivision, people I knew, made contact with custom home builders, established relationships there so that I could talk to their home owners and install their landscape, talk to commercial developers so I could get, maintenance jobs and install jobs. And so that's what I did. And we started getting jobs there. But one thing I didn't have, like I said, I was just starting out, is a crew. And that's kind of where you came in. And so, along with, all the other things, establishing the business, going out selling jobs, I needed to find the right people for the crew. And that's, that was one of the hardest things. And I started talking to people in my subdivision at the POA, Property Owners Association, started talking to people that work in my house, in fact. And, I think it was your uncle, your cousin.
My uncle.
He was doing some tile work at the house. And, I was, hey, one day I said, do you know anybody that wants to do landscape or knows or, can? And that kind of takes us up to where you and I met. You came out and, we hit it off, and you were able to start, leading the crews and allowing me to back off so I could do some more of the business type work, for the company. But yeah, so that in a nutshell, that kind of takes us to where you and I met. I guess it was 2012.
Yeah, 2012, March 2012. I think I just quit the prison. I worked at the prison system for about 5 years and got an use of force and just got tired of it, and I quit. Much again to everybody's surprise, they're like, "Oh," because I was up to be promoted for sergeant and then move into intake and all the different roles within the prison system. And I woke up, called my sergeant. I told him, "Man," I said, after this use of force, and I've had plenty of use of the force. It's just I don't know, just that one was different. I was like, I'm making X amount of it. It's not even covered anything.
Yeah.
And basically, if he would have had a shank or anything, they would have just stabbed me. That would have been it.
Yeah.
For X amount of dollars, that was amounted to like $400 or $500 a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, that ain't for me.
Not worth it.
Yeah. But now I was at the house. Actually, I think we were about to go to the river, and my uncle called me like, "Hey, I got one of my customers up here that's looking for somebody to run his maintenance crews." I'm like, "Well, I ain't never ran maintenance crews, but I ran crews before." I said, "I don't know much about cutting yards, but I mean, I'm all down for it."
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember when you came out, and I had the truck, I had the trailer, the equipment, it was all brand new. And in fact, we were over, happened to be Roger Clemens' house, his lake house there in Bentwater, and you were trying to get that mower out of the back of the trailer.
Oh yeah, the self-propelled.
Yeah, and we couldn't quite get it out. We were having trouble hitting the corners and that. But we learned, right? I mean,
we learned. We got better, and now it went from I think we started off. I think we had, heck, Thursdays and Fridays were full days, and then turned in. I think we were working a couple Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then we started, and everything was surprisingly right there in that subdivision, and then we branched off the French Quarters and did some new yards there.
Yeah.
But it was.
Yeah, it grew pretty well.
Yeah, it grew well. But with that, I mean, on some of my previous episodes, I've talked about, building your clientele, building your customer book, and you kind of touched base about that a little bit in your story. And but I mean, how much homework did you do, and how much did you study your customer book or the people you're going to? I mean, how much time investing in that is important, just for anybody trying to start anything.
Well, and so I completely agree. You do need to invest the time and do the research, and that's for anything. Even if you're looking for a job, you can kind of apply the same logic there. Learn as much as you can about the company you're applying for.
Yeah.
So you can ask the right questions, and you kind of do the same thing in sales. But, I can say early on, I did have the advantage of knowing those customers. A lot of them I knew because I lived, literally next door and within the same subdivision. And that just took, me losing my ego, if you will, and saying, hey, I'm going to you now. You guys know me as a corporate guy, but I'm trying to start this company. Yeah. And can I cut your yard? That's basically what it boiled down to. And so, you got to have a little humility there. But I completely agree, doing your research, understanding, in my corporate job, certainly I've, done sales, knowing what the customer wants. And that's the key. Don't try to sell them something that they're not asking for. You need to first ask questions and shut up and let them talk. Let them
because they're going to tell you everything they want.
Exactly.
You just got to let them talk.
Exactly.
But no, I agree 100%. And even like I said, I learned a lot of stuff there working with you and with comes to irrigation, because there was some stuff. Like I remember this one lady, we did a complete job for her, and we had mentioned to her that we needed that she didn't have an irrigation system, but that she needed to water it at least 2 or 3 times a day. Yeah. And she didn't do that. And when we came to mow or do a checkup, I think she had spent like $3 or $4 grand just on a bunch of different trees and plants and flowers, and they're all dead. And I'm like, I mean, we told you got to flower, you got to water them. Yeah. But I mean, it's important as knowing your customers and just doing the homework, letting them and speak and knowing what they want to do. Yeah. But and then just what about the follow up? I mean, the follow up is just as important as doing your homework for the initiation of it.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you listen to any kind of sales, coaching, you got to be relentless. I mean, it's not just, you can't just ask one time and go for that sale. You have to continue to follow up. And it's really, even after the sale, the customer service on top of that, because again, I'll go back to the idea of trying to get a job. You might get turned down, but you need to follow up. You need to, thank that person for taking the time, because you don't ever know what's going to happen on down the road. And in some cases I've seen where people, have provided a thank you letter, and the person decided, hey, I want to hire this person. I mean, they really,
they went out the way. That simple, that small gesture of a thank you.
Right. So follow up is key. It's huge. So for sure.
Then, like I said, the simple fact of, I know, like you said, you went to people you knew, but I know not everybody told you yes. Yeah. So how do you handle the no's?
Yeah. Well, you're always going to get no's. There's no question. I mean, that's just part of it. You provided good service, and just like any small business or business coming out, I did a lot of marketing within the subdivision. People started seeing Innovative Outdoors on trucks, and we had the logo. You remember that? I gave you guys shirts. I wanted to build that brand. And so part of, again, building a small business is the branding of it and the marketing and really providing great service. Yeah. And, people in this talking, we followed up, we were professional, right? I mean, I had a professional website. People could could pay online. That was important to them. They could
Easy access.
Right. It was easy. It was convenient for them to do business with us because I was able to bring that professionalism, to that company as opposed to them, leaving cash underneath their doorstep or not being able to talk to the person that they're doing business with. I mean, those are important things even, within landscape for sure.
Then I know one particular story, which was pretty great. And Roger Clemens, when we went and did his yard, I think he was doing a fish fry, and me and the guys, the crew, were sitting out there mowing. He had his house and he had the lot right next to him, and we were mowing that, and he just called us all over there and like, "Hey, you want some fish?"
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
He just invited us over for some fish, and I'm like, "Man, yeah." I said, "We'll take a plate." And we're like, no, come get a plate. You're gonna take a plate. We got plenty of fish on ours.
That's great. I didn't even know.
But no, it's just the simple, like you said, being professional about it, and like you said, you touched on branding. The simple fact of when a lot of people are starting smaller companies or just any company in general, you have a lot of people who don't look uniform. Yeah. They got, people wearing different shirts, different, we had the same shirts. We had the truck, we had the logo, everything was nice, clean cut.
Right. And
that goes a long way, especially when you're trying to grow a company in the eyesight of, people looking in.
Right. And again, I took advantage of that, having that professional, experience that I had when I would talk to homeowners, and these were nice houses that we were doing, and some of the new installs, and so a lot of times they happen to be, either retirees from oil and gas or chemicals, people that I could speak their language, and we could talk corporate and a lot of the things that they're going through, they went through, I was going through, so we had that connection there. And so I took advantage of that, and they felt comfortable talking to me. And so we landed quite a few jobs that some of the home builders didn't think I would get because these were large, large jobs, and we were pretty much a small company. I got corporate jobs, from doing the same thing. I was able to talk to people and, get jobs that otherwise I wouldn't have gotten. Just being a small company competing with large, other large companies.
Yeah, because some of we were running one crew, and I think Thursday and Friday our schedule we had 26 houses we were having to do in those 2 days, which is a lot in 2 days. But then when right there in that subdivision, because it's such a large subdivision, it was a handful, but it was great. I mean. And then the beauty of it was when the work that we were doing, and then the homeowner of another place that was using another company, they just see the small details that you do. And if you want to touch base on this, but it's just the simple fact of you don't always want to underbid your competition because that's not how you get sales.
Right.
Because you're going to undersell yourself, and at the end of the day, that's not how you make money.
Yeah. We weren't trying to be the cheapest, right,
no.
by any means. But we provided that value. We provided the service, professionalism and all the other things that we talked about. And so, you don't want to be the cheapest. That's not what we were going for sure.
Yeah, because you always want a lot of folks, and I've had some guys, some good friends of mine that have started their own landscape company, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to take this whole project, but I'm underbid it so much. So I'm like, why are you underbidding? You're still going to do the same amount of work. Yeah. They're already paying this amount, so why would you do lower? Yeah. If not, just offer an extra service, which is a simple pick up the trash or turn the flower beds. Goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to go out of business. I mean, you got to make a profit.
Yeah, you can't run with no money. Yeah. And but no, it was great, and a lot of different aspects of just. I learned a lot from you just working with you, and it was an eye opener. And I went from working with you to Corey Boland pulled me off, and he got me on a project over there in Leona. Yeah. And that will turn into a 3-year project that was only supposed to be like a 6-month project. Yeah. Turned into 3 years, and then it got me there with Mark Burns for another 1.5 years until it was finished. But now it was great. So, I mean, what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I'm doing independent consulting. Kind of went back into the IT world. So, talking to businesses, understanding what their pain points are around digital transformation, IT
Hey,
transformation.
Caitlin, if you're watching this episode,
So yeah, I kind of went back to my roots a little bit, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I figured I probably maybe work for 10 more years, and finish it out this way. But yeah, it's going great. Enjoying it. So
that's good. Well, if you have any IT issues or problems, or just look for somebody, give Frank a call. We'll get his information put in the link below. And but no, thank you, Frank, for being here.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It was an honor working for you, and it was great calling you a friend.
Yep. Same here. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, guys, if you don't follow us now, just stay tuned. Hit the like button, subscribe, share it to your audience or coworkers, and if you have any questions, just feel free to give us a call.
Let's get straight to the point. This what you do and what you don't do. No bullshit.